All right. I think we're connected here. Let me let's check this out. Give some folks a chance to.
Yeah, looks like we're on.
To get to us. That'll be good. For those of you that are out there watching this back, Olivia is on her way. She is coming in hot from Florida, so she's trying to make it back home, and so she may have to end up talking to us while she's in the vehicle. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's see. Looks like she's here. Let's see. She's coming in. Olivia, you there?
I'm here.
Fantastic.
I'm in the McDonald's parking lot.
That's a great place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So you never know where I might show up.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think our feed's working. It looks like everything is working out there on Facebook. So we'll just get rolling here.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, for those of you out there listening, this is sort of the continuation of Agency Nation's Facebook group, and I'm excited to continue a conversation in this group. I think for me personally, when I was getting started several years ago, this group and the people within it really sparked a lot of thought for me and conversation around how to really take a traditional agency and sort of propel it into the future. And so that's been my experience and with this group specifically, and I'm just excited to continue that conversation today with Aubie and Olivia. So Olivia, any thoughts?
No, I'm excited. This is our big debut. Well, not necessarily. I guess we had an intro, but this is kind of our big debut. I'm going to call it the big debut. So we have we have a great guest today. I'm excited.
Pressure,
I feel like I'm still fairly new to this group, but I think that we can have some great conversations, share some good ideas, and hopefully everybody's going to get some new insights that they can take back to the way that they're doing things. Every week we can hopefully bring them something good. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we thought, putting our heads together, who would be a good first guest to bring on here, and my mind went to Aubie Knight because for those of you who don't know who Aubie is the CEO of the IIANC here in North Carolina, and has really, in my opinion, had his finger on the pulse of all things technology-driven inside your insurance agency and just how we're managing insurance agencies today and a lot of other things. So, Aubie, give us a couple of minutes about yourself and what you're trying to do in North Carolina.
Yeah, sure. Happy to, and thank you guys for having me on. So, I am the CEO of the Independent Insurance Agency of North Carolina. I've been in this role for 5 years now. Prior to that, I held the role at the Independent Insurance Agency of Georgia, which is where I spent most of my career. I have been talking to agents about technology and really changing consumer expectations for a long time now. I went back and looked. I first did a seminar in Georgia in 2008 on how to use Facebook within your agency. So, I mean, this is something that I've been talking about for a really long time and trying to help agents understand, how they can use social media, how they can use digital marketing to, one, put themselves where the consumers are today, and to really, just think about it from an expectation customer experience standpoint. So, I have been called an evangelist about this because it's something, I have talked about extensively, trying to just help agents understand that the world is changing and consumers are much more, have much higher expectations, and they have access to much more data. So the playing field has really shifted, and agencies as well as all businesses, you have to kind of respond to those changes in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And that's so important. Obviously there's so much conversation around that these days. And so I think having some leadership at the state association level that really takes a focus on that has been great for North Carolina. Obviously, I'm sitting in North Carolina myself, so I'm a little biased, but we really appreciate your work. I think North Carolina and Ohio and some other states are sort of leading the charge with this stuff, and so I thank you for all that. That's been great.
It's my pleasure. I mean, I really do believe that it's really critical to the survival and the continued thriving of the independent agency system. It absolutely is.
Yep, absolutely. So to that end, the first question I thought of that I really wanted to throw out to you, and I think it might be the premise of the whole conversation here, and we'll sort of just see where things take us. But there's been this conversation about balancing the usage of technology in our agencies across the board in processes and sales, all different parts of the agency. Balancing that with the tried and true traditional workflows that have for so long generated books of business that are pretty substantial and can support families and everything that it has involved with the channel. So I wanted your thoughts on that just to sort of the get-go, because you obviously are able to see agencies in real time sometimes integrate technology slowly, and then some that just wholesale start that way. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on where you're seeing some of that work.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of look at it as agencies kind of fall into one of three buckets, right? That you've got the all-in agencies, and to your point, some of them start out like that. They start out as all-in type of, you know, digital from the beginning. But there are some that I would describe as all in right now that, you know, 10 years ago you would have looked at and would have considered them to be very traditional independent insurance agencies. And typically, I think what my findings have been is that those agencies have the owner, the principal that has just really embraced technology and has embraced the need to change. And they've done it to a point where they're seeing the ROI from it. But that's a minority. I mean, that's a small minority of agencies. I think the largest bucket is would probably describe where you are, Landon, and that is you've got the traditional insurance agency where the principal is perhaps not as gung ho as and excited, you know, about technology because they've grown up in the industry the traditional way, and it's proven to be very successful. But they've got someone, a trusted person on their team, as part of their staff, part of their agency, maybe part of the future perpetuation, that they said, look, I shop on Amazon. I'm a Prime member. I'm watching my movie on Netflix. I get it. Technology is changing the world. We need to be a part of that. So go and do your thing, and you've got certain latitude to experiment and go out and try this. And I think that's probably where most independent agencies are today, is that they've got someone that has been given the task of trying to modernize the agency. And maybe it's not in every aspect of the agency's operation. You know, maybe it's only in customer acquisition, right? Maybe it's like, you know, you've been tasked with, you know, getting our Google reviews and doing some video marketing. Maybe it's you've been tasked with trying to figure out ways where we can enhance the customer experience through technology. But at least there's some component to where the agency has charged someone on staff of at least exploring and trying to enhance what they're doing in, you know, some area. And then you've got the other small bucket of people that just are not doing anything, right? I mean, it's they're just not they're not using technology to evolve. They almost see technology as a necessary evil, right? I mean, I've got to have a management system, and so we have a management system, and that's about the extent of it. Yeah.
That's all good. And by the way, a couple housekeeping things here before we keep going. Olivia is having some trouble hearing Aubie, so Olivia, I'm just going to throw that out there for you. Just feel free to jump in with a question that hits your mind. I think she can hear me, what she's told me, but she's having trouble hearing Aubie for some reason.
Well, so the Facebook group is not the same.
Yeah, that's true. I think they're good. I think they would be telling me if they couldn't. So, and also, if you have a question for us as we're going here, feel free to just throw it up there, and we'll get you in here. There's also a link that we'll drop in the Facebook group, which I'm going to do now, that you can dive in here with us. We can bring another person in, I believe, so we can try that as well. So, Olivia, Aubie just got through kind of explaining what he's seeing within agencies that he's dealing with. But did you have any questions on the outset for him as you were thinking about today?
Well, I guess he may repeat information, and I won't. I guess I won't even necessarily hear it if he does. But I think, so I was thinking about this last night, and I was wondering, there's so many options out there. So there's a million different things in terms of technology and automation, and it seems like it's a lot to try and sift through. But what is one critical piece of technology that you see agencies not using, or maybe just not using properly, or capitalizing on having that technology available within their operations?
Well, I think, Olivia, I guess my experience is, I mean, when you look at, and it's an interesting question to start thinking about, let's just call it the tech stack, right? That independent agencies are using now, and it's so funny because I think about it from I was just mentioning there are some agencies out there that still their only piece of technology they may have in the agency is the agency management system. There are other agencies where that's still the main piece of technology, and then you've got this other set of agencies where, well, that's kind of a minor part of our technology. That's just where we keep up with our policy data. That's my E&O system, and it's all these other pieces of technology that are ones that actually enhance our efficiency and enhance the customer experience. So, I know that from a struggle standpoint, there are a lot of agencies out there that are probably only scratching the surface of really fully even being able to utilize that one piece of technology that they all share in common, which is their agency management system. So I think, carefully assessing where you are from an agency management system today is probably something that every agency ought to be doing, particularly looking for agency management systems that are going to allow for easier and better integration of all of these, potentially all these third-party solutions out there that can really start to enhance how the agency is doing business, from whether that's from a customer servicing standpoint, or from an acquisition standpoint, or just from an experience standpoint. And maybe one of the biggest frustrations right now is you got all these cool tools that have been built for agencies, but to get them to integrate with the management system, is if not impossible, it's certainly much more difficult than what it ought to be.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of leads me to another question here too, because I've noticed too out there that there's been some really healthy conversation around agents and agencies putting in the time to really learn and understand what all these different technology components can do for you and your agency. And that time takes away from, the tried and true sales process, things that will generate revenue and build a business today. And so, there's a conversation about outsourcing. There's a conversation about, all that stuff. So what have you been hearing, seeing out there, and as how agents specifically are handling that issue? I mean, I know you mentioned they usually have one person that's sort of dedicated to it, but how do they navigate that time element when it comes to that?
Well, I really kind of speculating here a bit. Part of it is, I think really what we're talking about here is change management. How do you manage change? And it's I guess akin to the lumberjack who you got to take time to sharpen your axe, right? I mean, on one hand, you're like, no, I can't. I got another tree to cut down. I can't take time to sharpen the axe. Well, you just like, how do you go about self-improvement in anything? How do you find time to go to the gym, or how do you find time to do anything? If you have to be committed to a process, and once you said, look, I'm committed to us becoming more technologically adept, right? For us to becoming a more innovative agency, then you're just going to have to figure out how you manage that time, just like you do if you decide you want to run a half marathon, right? You're just going to have to, you have to realize you're going to have to put some time into training, into doing those things. So I think that is the simple answer. Now, the reality of it is that's hard to do. You know, I mean, it's hard to figure out where that time is going to come from. Now, with that said, I tell you, just kind of anecdotally, when I'm out talking to agencies, nearly unequivocally, I continue to hear the message that we're having to work harder and harder to hang on to our renewals because it seems like all of our customers are shopping. I mean, it seems like, you know, they're constantly being inundated with ads of, you know, save money here, save money there. You know, we can do it quicker, bit better, cheaper, faster. So agencies are having to work harder for retention, but then I hear those same agencies tell me in the very next sentence, but at the same time, their phone's not ringing as often to give out quotes.
Right.
And to me, that ought to be a huge red flag, right? So what you're telling me is your customers are out there shopping, but the other guy's customers, if they're shopping, they're not choosing you to shop with because your phone's not ringing. And I think, to me, I mean, that just screams from lack of a digital presence. I mean, in my mind, that just means the customer is not aware of you as an alternative that they could be shopping with. So, you know, it screams about, you know, customer acquisition and SEO and having a digital presence.
Right. So I'm going to throw up a question here that popped in from Keith Phillips. I don't know if you all can see that on Facebook, but Keith Phillips is saying, can you drill down on specific tech software outside of the agency management system? Before I throw that to Aubie, Olivia, I know that you've dealt with a lot of this recently in your agency, you know, transitioning to different tech pieces and whatnot, and have a larger agency from a human standpoint and how you're managing it. So do you have any thoughts on kind of the hit list? What's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and in technology pieces to sort of start moving in that direction? Oh, Olivia, can you hear me?
I have you back. I didn't have you for a minute, but I have you back now.
So
you heard your question, though.
That's right. I'm throwing it to you on this. Yeah. So on this question that popped up by Keith is drilling down in that specific software outside of an agency management system, knowing that you yourself have dealt with this recently inside your agency. Kind of what your hit list is. What do you think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is on what you need as an agency to start building in a technological direction?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, for personal lines agencies, and I don't know if like everybody is doing this, but I do seem to hear some murmurings that some don't. But, you know, a rater for your personal lines, I think is absolutely critical. And I think most of them probably bridge out from your agency management system. But you know, we're looking into a comparative rater for small business as well. And so if that's kind of, if you're going to marry those two things together, which is something that we've done as an organization, if you can have both, absolutely, for sure. Gosh, what else?
So much. And we should also, yeah, go ahead. So we should also say that you just came back from an intensive conference where you're talking about all this kind of stuff. So you may be at capacity as far as what your brain can handle at that point.
There's just so many things. I think, oh gosh, if your system doesn't offer any sort of texting service, we had a big discussion about this and how the open rate on text messages is so much higher than email. And granted, you have to be specific and concise in your messaging, but if you're always, you know, taking that time, sending a quick text message, linking them back to your website, as long as you have like a powerful presence there, then I think that that's absolutely a great way to communicate and keep ongoing communication. Like if you can keep push notifications going out to your customers and building relationships, keeping your agency top of mind so that when they think about their insurance, they're thinking about your agency. I think that is a great piece of technology. The AMS systems are doing it. I don't know if they're doing it well.
Yeah.
So I think that looking at an outside system for texting is something that is worth taking the time to investigate. The big thing that we've done now, or we're in the process of doing, is implementing Indio in our workflows. So,
Okay.
which is your
Break that
e-signature.
down for us. What is break down Indio for those that don't know?
So Indio is a system that digitizes applications. So if you're managing a book on PDF forms, then Indio is a solution for that. So it data maps.
Okay.
It has the oh my gosh, I feel like I should know this word so well because I always ask them when I'm on calls with them, like, what's that word again? But it has like the logic built into it. So if you answer no to a question, it's not going to ask the follow-up questions on that same type of risk.
Got
Conditioning
it.
logic. So it has the conditioning logic built into it, but it's more of a smart system. So
Yeah.
it's your e-signature. If you're not using any sort of e-signature, which I'm not sure how many agencies are or aren't,
Right.
your return rate on e-signature is so much easier, or on
Right.
getting those applications back quickly in the time that you need them. Um, Absolutely have an e-signature solution. Some of them integrate with agency management
Right.
systems. Some of them sit
Some of them
outside.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aubie, I'm thinking this
I just got a
comment came.
phone call. I'm so popular. I just got a phone call in the middle of this. I'm just kidding. Um,
um,
but
Yeah.
yeah, I
So let
mean,
me, I guess
there's so
I
many
was
things
thinking
out
through.
there.
she
It
must
is
not can
hard.
hear.
Can you not
Can you
hear
hear
me?
us? Yeah, I think you might have lost us. Yeah, sorry about this audio issue with Olivia there, but Aubie, I'm kind of throwing this back out here too. Keeping data in one system can become messy with newer technologies in the game. I think that sort of speaks to some of the things Olivia was talking about.
Yeah.
That can be difficult when you do have all this, and then you have to come up with a way, either with internal staff or through VAs or some other mechanism, Zapier, some way to get that data that you have in one system to the next. And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of agents.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, you just mentioned Zapier of trying to connect systems so that data can flow and you can keep a handle on the data. I do want to kind of follow up on the question with Olivia.
Yeah.
She mentioned a lot. I didn't want to get into mentioning like specific vendors for texting services, for electronic signatures. I mean, those are a couple of things that I think kind of forward-thinking agencies need to look at. There are a lot of other calendar apps where people can go online and like schedule phone calls and schedule walk-in appointments with you. I think those are big. Ticketing systems to handle service requests are something that we hear, some of the really forward-thinking agencies are doing, so that when customers maybe submit a request for a certificate of insurance, that starts to being handled electronically, so that they receive a confirmation email that, hey, we've received your request, we're working on it. Then the ticketing system is routing that request to the appropriate personnel within the agency or the appropriate personnel outside of the agency through some virtual assistant, that type of an approach. A couple of things that we're doing here, because one of the things about being at the insurance agents is we also run a retail operation where we sell insurance to our member agency. So
Right.
we have an agency within the walls, and we try to we try to model behavior that we feel like our members should be looking into. So something that we've started doing in the past probably 3 or 4 months, we're doing video proposals now. So there are lots of tools out there where you can deliver proposals via video, kind of talk through proposals and just have a easier, more modern way to explain what it is that you're quoting and what it is that you're offering a customer. We're also using software that can instantly measure customer satisfaction and drive social reviews. So once a transaction is completed, the software is sending out essentially a survey. Hey, how did we handle your request? And so I can look at it and say, this person gave us 5 stars out of 5 and gave us a testimonial. and hopefully went and also gave us a Google review. So that software, in the 3 years, yeah, I mean, we've got like 6 great Google reviews in the last 30 days because of this software.
Because of that system.
Yeah, because of this system. So things like that, I think, are the types of technology solutions that agencies need to be thinking about. And the video proposals are phenomenal. That you can do such a better job of explaining a video, or excuse me, explaining a proposal or a policy in a 1-minute video than you could in a 3-paragraph email. And the open rate on it, the watch rate, the close rate, I mean, all that's outstanding. You're doing some video quoting and proposals, right, Landon?
Yeah, a lot of our video work and that has been focused on the one-to-one strategy with video. So everything from sending a video highlighting the different points of a business that we want to get an underwriter to consider. We'll do a video for that and send it over to them. We've had some really good success with that. But then, yes, I mean, and I want to run down the tools so that people know what they can look up. So there's several tools. There's 3 that I'll highlight. One is Go Video by Vidyard. Vidyard is, I've used that pretty extensively. They're a very simple platform that you can bring up. They actually have an app on your phone you can use, but it's basically face to camera and or sharing your screen with a little icon below. So that works really well. And they give you free data on has someone watched it or not. So Vidyard, Vidyard, Vidyard is where you would go for that one. What I've really been using a lot lately, though, is Soapbox by Wistia.
Yeah, Soapbox is awesome. It's free. It's just an add-on to your Chrome. I use it a lot. Yeah.
It is, and Wistia allows you in post production, and people can get freaked out by post production, but really what it is you do the video as you normally would. It's on your web camera. You've got your screen. You're sharing it, and at the end, it takes time to render. While it's rendering, it allows you to go back in the frames and decide, okay, do I want to show my face? Do I want to show my face and the proposal, or just the proposal where I'm highlighting things? So that works super well. They have a CTA at the end, so they can you can put a button out there to, hey, schedule a time to meet with us, or say yes, I would like that quote. So there's a lot of different things, and then I know a lot of people in this community have used Loom, and Loom is another plugin on Chrome. All of these are plugins on Chrome that you can use for video proposals and the like. So yeah, that is a huge deal. And even if you don't get into we can talk about video if we want in a second. That'll be a whole nother can of worms. But even if you don't get into the highly produced videos that may or may not hit your audience right, that one-to-one video conversation is a game changer. Like you said, I mean, I can't say we've got 100% response rate from them, but the response rate is far and away better than just, here's an email, here's my quote, what do you think? So that's been able to help us a lot. Yeah.
I'm using Soapbox pretty regularly just to respond to regular emails,
Right.
Because again, you can say in a 30-second video what it would take you 5 minutes to craft out in a boring email. So
yep, absolutely. So all these pieces together, I just want to highlight one thing real quick. Ron Berg is saying that he agrees with some comments about the challenges of compartmentalizing data. And this is sort of getting into, I think, another portion of this discussion, and that is what the collection of data and how agencies can use it in the future. What's going to be important for agents to understand. And this is like I said, this is a deep topic. We can just touch on it quickly. But Olivia, I know that was a big topic of discussion where you came from just this week. So I want to give you the chance first to speak to it.
Oh, yeah. So it was I think it was like 6 hours maybe of discussion, probably longer with all the meetings after the meetings. But yeah, I mean, figuring out that magic way to make sure that our agency management systems are telling the true story of the customer, what they have what they need. How are we performing with a carrier? It's like we are so dependent on carrier data in order to tell us how we're doing in our business. But how do we make sure that we can monitor that in real time, and make meaningful, critical decisions for our customers and for our carriers? I think it's such a huge topic, and obviously, I think most of us are somewhat familiar with the solutions that are floating around. I don't want to say floating around; it's heavier than that. But
Yeah.
there's people that are being innovative and trying to bring solutions to the table. Because right now, I think we're kind of living on the 80-20 rule, which
Right.
maybe is okay. I mean, we operate a lot of our business on the 80-20 rule. But I don't think that any of us want to be 20% off in how we're calculating our agency performance.
Right.
And so figuring out the best way to get that true information moving back and forth seamlessly from our agency management system to our carriers, really being able to be a proactive advisor to our clients. It's so huge. Um, the solution is coming, but
Yeah.
what we do in the meantime, I think, is a tough thing. I mean, it's a kind of a little bit of a business as usual. You're going to probably continue
Right.
doing it a lot of the way that you have been doing it right now. But I don't know that I'm okay with just getting a report at the end of 30 days from a
Gotcha.
carrier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really answer your question.
No, I thought you did.
I feel like I may have added more questions on top of the question, but
No.
but yeah, I mean, our analytics are limited at this point, but I do think it will continue to get better. But we have to be willing to have very open and frank conversations with our carriers, because at the end of the day, we all want to do what's in best interest of all parties involved. This isn't any sort of play for one person to come out on top. So I think as long as we keep that in mind, then there's going to be definitely some positive momentum that comes from that.
Yeah. Aubie, data, your thoughts?
So, I mean, I guess big data has been, kind of a buzzword, or at least I feel like in 2010, at least it was probably still a buzzword, but now it's moved way beyond just being a buzzword into something that is critically important on a lot of different levels. And when I start thinking about data, and Olivia mentioned maybe some of the difficulties, we've got all this data, but how do you analyze it? And so maybe I think in the past few years, the business analytics and the data analytics tools have really advanced to a point where you can start to make more sense of the data that you have, and organize the data to start having some meaningful insight so that you can make intelligent business decisions moving forward. We've all seen how, and probably Facebook is the great example of this, right? Of how you can monetize data. I mean, think about it. I mean, Facebook has been a critical, I mean, not critical, it's been a very important part of a lot of people's lives. Hundreds of millions of people have really, gotten their life enriched, and you're able to keep up with family and classmates and old friends in a way that you would never have been able to imagine, previously. And you've been able to do all that for free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how? I mean, how are you able to do that for free? Well, it's because they're taking all the data and the insights that they're gathering from human behavior, and they're able to monetize that. And certainly, I think that Olivia, mentioned that there are some thought leaders in the IA space that look at all of this data that we're collecting, all the data that agencies are collecting, and all the insights that could be gleaned from that data, and imagine a future where that can be monetized and become an additional revenue stream for agents. So I'm very excited about that, and we're certainly doing a lot internally and trying to better understand our members, better trying to quantify and qualify our members that are growing, our members that are growing at really rapid rates of organic
Right.
growth, and then we have members that are shrinking
Mhm.
rapidly. So what are the characteristics that are causing that to happen? Is it all based on geographic area and the economic
Right.
health of your local community? Is it broader than that? Really, for us to try to understand that, so that we can offer the appropriate level of help and assistance and guidance and advice. And then you start thinking about the bad side of data, the challenging side of data, and that's the liability that's associated with it.
Right.
And so, a lot of people look at the technology, and all they're thinking about right now is the compliance angle of technology, and how
Mhm.
do I remain compliant with all of the cyber laws and the regulations and the standards and
Right.
the requirements that are being placed on me as a purveyor and collector of data. So data's a really multifaceted. We can talk about hours for data right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, some of it, just to boil it down even simpler. I mean, I feel like, at least it's my experience in this agency and maybe in some others, just being able to mine the data that we currently have on customers.
Mhm.
Basically taking your book of business and slicing it and dicing it in different categories so that the basics, who's coming up for renewal, right? That's the most basic. Most people will be doing that, but there's also, focused intentional effort on,
Right.
hey, this group of people, we only have one policy on,
Right, exactly.
right? And so how do we get them to 2? How do we get them to 3? How do we take the ones that already have, how about length of time? This person's been a customer of ours since whatever, and we still only have one policy. How can we get a message to them that makes sense? And so I think just using the data that we already have in our agency systems will help us in getting used to what a future looks like, where big data can play such a huge role in just a small business itself.
Yeah, I mean, you cite some great examples there of really simple uses of data, but they can be powerful. And
Yeah.
even a simple use of data analytics, like you just described, is probably beyond what most are doing, right? So that gives you
Mm-hmm.
that slightest competitive advantage to be able to say, okay, look, we've now identified all of our monoline homeowners, and it's not many, right? It's only
Right.
we've only got 28 in our agency that are monoline homeowners accounts. Well, now
Right.
that 28 that you can build out that automated marketing campaign to go after their auto, and to have that drip campaign, and that's just dollars that a lot of agencies are leaving on the table.
Yep.
Instead of harvesting the data and then building the
And then
appropriate
using it.
marketing approach.
Right.
To
Yeah. Olivia, how's your agency using that data right now? Some of the pieces that I cited.
So it's probably one of the biggest points of frustration for us right now is that the reporting is all very manual.
Right.
I mean, it just feels like a very laborious manual procedure. You run this if this, not that report. I believe is what we technically call it.
You need a degree in logic to get through it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're looking for those monoline policy customers and things like that, or you're reading through a chart of X dates and things like that. So I think it is just having better, credible reporting out of our systems, and hopefully that we see that start to improve. And I can only speak from an applied experience because that's all I've ever known from AMS. I don't know if Vertifor's potentially doing it better, or Hawksoft, or any of those. I don't know. I don't know enough about other agency management systems to be able to say, maybe somebody else is really allowing you to understand your customer better. Because I think that if you ask anybody that's been in the industry for a while, they'll tell you that your biggest potential for growth is within your book.
Right.
It's right there. It's just waiting to be acted on. It's a matter of being able to get that information and be able to, create action items that allow us to truly grow and continue building on existing relationships that, like our customers are paying us to be their advisor. And if you can't report on it, then you can't actually take the lead and be that advisor that you need to be without it being, that manual process of looking up every single account on an individual basis. So I think any better reporting that we can get that allows us to it streamlines the whole process, and it makes our customer feel like they're being taken care of well. It's
Yeah.
like it is such a huge critical thing, and I think it will continue to improve. But yeah, it's certainly something that is a big effort in our agency to be able to do that better.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Aubie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're exactly right. And it really highlights one of the main challenges I think that agencies have, and that is the central reliance on agency management systems that were basically built to be a depository of policy data. And they were not built with the intentions of being marketing platforms or prospect identification, right? It's all about just holding policy data and just the most basic customer data. And so the fact that you can't go into any agency management system and just simply click the button that says, print me off all the monoline policies that I have coming up for renewal so that I can market and sell and try to do the account rounding, just shows you the shortcomings. That's just not where their mindset is. And I 100% agree with you that it will improve because I think that a lot of agency management systems are feeling threatened right now by all of the other technology that agencies are becoming, perhaps that they rely on even more than they do their agency management system now. Whereas the agency management system used to be the hub or the only piece of technology, they're becoming increasingly less important to a lot of agencies as these other types of technologies that are actually helping with customer acquisition, increase in importance. And I think that's going to really probably, unless the pace of change within the big agency management system starts exceeding the pace of change outside, I think that's going to continue to be the case. And I know that at least at the senior levels of management, I hear the big agency management system companies talk about exactly that, about how they're evolving and how they're opening up their API and how they want to be part of the solution of helping agencies evolve and transform. But then you talk to agents and it's like that's not happening fast enough or quick enough or whatever. And so I think that's where we are. And then you've got these emerging technologies out there, and even we're talking about use of data like playing checkers. Like really simple. I just want to know who my monoline accounts are so I can market their other lines of business. But then you've got these efforts out there to actually run predictive analytics on your book of business so that you can say, hey, based on the characteristics of this account, we think there's a 68% chance that they're going to leave your agency next renewal because this, and it's built into the algorithm. And here's what you need to do to salvage that account. And that's super cool to me. That gets me like excited and fired up about the future of the industry.
Yeah, and the struggle for me is, and I threw up a thing in Crowley with Mike Crowley here. I think it did take a little outside pressure there to get them to start thinking that direction. But here's the most frustrating thing for me, and I have a unique experience in that before I was an insurance agent, I was a fundraiser. That's what I did for a university, and the technology that the companies are using in that industry. Very similar to the needs that we have. Again, slicing and dicing the book, who expired with me and didn't renew, that sort of stuff. You talk about pushing a button and getting a report that spits out, this is what you need to focus on. The technology's out there. It's just that this industry, for whatever reason, and it's really hard to pinpoint, I think everybody has an opinion about why, but for whatever reason, it hasn't developed at the pace that I feel like the cloud has, that other people have been able to. And so I'm excited to see the technologies, especially from an agency management system and CRM and linking all that together.
Right.
I was just about to say, I mean, you look at Salesforce, right? And how embedded Salesforce has become in a number of businesses, and the fact that, I mean, I know a number of agencies that are using both an agency management system and Salesforce. Because Salesforce can do a lot from a prospect management, pipeline management, development, and from selling that their management systems can't do. And then you've got a couple of agency management systems out there now. We're getting ready to transition over to one in January that's built on a Salesforce platform. So I mean that's just kind of, I think, where that's really signifies the importance of the evolution of the agency
Yes.
management system to become more than just a depository of client data.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, in an effort to sort of bring it back down to to some agents out there that are listening that are like, where do we start? Julie, a great question here, and Aubie, if you have an idea, maybe I don't know if North Carolina has a resource like this. I think we might. In an effort to help agencies sift through all those many available tech tools, is there any kind of comparison chart that helps you do that? And I think, great question, Julie. It's one that I have had in my head and been trying to figure out an answer to for a long time. But Aubie, any thoughts on where we can sort of start with this stuff?
Yeah, so that is a great question, and it actually probably gives me a project, because no, we don't have exactly that. So Landon, as you're well aware, I mean, we do have a technology consultant that's exclusive
Right.
to IIANC, and works with a lot of members on technology issues. Primarily, that has been focused on two verticals. And one of the verticals is on the compliance side, and making
Right.
sure that we have the written security information plan and are compliant to the cyber rules and regulations. And then the other piece has been on agency management system selection. So we do have a white paper and a guide on considerations for agency management systems to kind of go through. But as far as comparison charts on what's the best texting app, or what's the
Right.
best calendar app, or what's the best video proposal app, we don't have that. What's the best app to measure your net promoter score, your customer satisfaction, and to drive Google
Right.
reviews? We don't have that. I mean, we've got a lot of resources. You're familiar with some of the podcasts and some of the resources that we've done to help, but that the question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I would love to at least have some guide out there to say, okay, if you're interested in a ticketing system, here are a couple of vendors that you might want to explore. If you're interested in a video proposal system, here are a couple of vendors that you can explore. If you're interested in a texting system, here's some vendors that you could explore.
I think
it's a good thought.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to a shift in mindset in the agencies themselves, because I think if the question comes up, in the office, we have a problem with XYZ. I think up until a few years ago, most people were just, well, how do we create a process to fix that? How does a human being fix that problem within our agency, whatever said problem is? And I think the agents that are being successful in integrating technology into it, their first thought is, okay, we have a problem. How can a piece of technology help me make this more efficient for my staff?
Yep.
How can this piece of technology solve the problem without me having to hire another person to get there? Whether that is just outsourcing something as simple as non-licensed activities. So you don't have to have a license in order to fill out a quote sheet, in order to whatever. And I think it speaks to, staffing and how we think about that, how we think about your highly skilled workers and what functions they're doing versus, what could we get a VA to do? What could we get someone that's not sitting right here to do with us and for us? Olivia, any comments to that end on some of those items?
I would agree. I mean, I think you need to identify what your problems are. Like what is it that we want to solve? What is it that we want to do better? And then figure out what technology marries with that. It's so easy to get distracted by the shiny objects. There's a lot of great, cool technology out there. And I think that it's important to identify what it is that you want to do better in your agency and then start the technology conversation from there. I think if you start with technology, you're possibly going to start solving problems that you don't actually have, or
create new ones.
Or creating new ones.
Right.
Spending time and money on something that's not actually benefiting your business. So I think, I mean, it's like if we want to have better structured ongoing communication with our agencies or with our clients, then what solves that? Don't don't spend your time, looking at something that has nothing to do with that. And I think that there's a lot of distractions out there. I mean, there's just so many amazing things. If you go to any vendor show, whether it's insurance related or not, there's 150 different options out there in terms of things that you could bring into your business. But if they're not going to solve a problem, then, obviously don't invest any more resources in that direction. So yeah, that can be tough because they all want to talk to you.
No doubt. They're all beating down the door.
Minutes.
Yes.
They all want 30 minutes of your time. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a matter of what do you want to solve today? What do you think you're going to need to solve in order to, make it to where you want to be in your 3-year plan or your 5-year plan as an agency, whatever that strategic effort looks like. Make sure that your technology that you're looking at is marrying in with that business plan. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts on that. Cause I did probably agree mostly, but I probably disagree in a couple of areas.
Now wait a minute now. Olivia can't hear your disagreement, so I'll have to make sure we translate that to her.
What did he say?
We'll get to that in a second, Olivia. Hang on.
No. Well, okay. So I guess a couple of things, and one, I think Olivia's comments are awesome, but it really starts to highlight a lot of the complexity here, and how a lot of these issues really marry together. Because one, in order for you to have a problem, you're probably having to do some data analytics to even know that you've got a problem. Like, Correct. Is the problem my close ratios are not what they used to be? Well, or is that anecdotal, or are you actually measuring? Do you know what your close ratios are today versus what close ratios were 5 years ago, or 3 years ago?
Right.
Because a lot of times, the problems that agencies have, they may not even know that they're a problem. Like for instance, the use of video quotes. Well, I didn't even know that I didn't know that the way that we were delivering our quotes was a problem, right? So I had lunch several years ago with a good friend of mine who's an attorney, owns a law practice, and we were having cheeseburgers and French fries, and he said, and I had tried to call him, and my intent was just to leave him a voicemail on his at his office phone. And but just like 7 o'clock at night, and someone answered the phone, and he just had an answering service. So anyway, I was talking to him, and he said something to me at lunch that day. He goes, we're thinking about evolving our business all the time, and we look at it like this: if we're still doing something today in the same way, shape, or form that we were doing it 5 years ago, there's probably a better way to do it. There's probably a new piece of technology, a new app, or something. There's a better way to do it. So, I mean, I think about that from if an agency took that mindset, if we're still delivering proposals via email, which is the same way that we were delivering them in 2010, 2005, there's probably a better way to do that, right? If you're still filling out expense reports with a paper form and cutting checks and licking a stamp and there's probably a better way to do that. And I think that's the thing that we have to all, what does licking a stamp and putting it on envelopes, does that still work? Yeah, it still works. Right. But is there a better way to do it? And I think that's the challenge is sometimes it's not necessarily a problem that manifests itself. It's just that there's a better way to do something, and you haven't even really fully contemplated what that better way is. Yeah. I don't know. It's very good. It gets complicated for sure.
It does. Olivia, you're safe. He didn't run you over or anything. It was all good. It was all good. So you can go back and listen to the tape back and see what he said. No, it wasn't bad. I promise. One last call too for anybody have any questions. We've been doing this about 50 some minutes, and so we'll probably shut it down here in just a few minutes.
You're having fun, Landon.
What's that?
The time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to also just ask, Aubie, crystal ball here, okay? 2020 and beyond. What is, you think, the number one thing that if agents don't focus on this, it could be a detriment to their business 2020 and beyond?
Oh, it's such an easy answer for me. It's probably not super, super deep,
Yeah.
You need a better website. You know, I mean, I think
Website.
that
Yep.
it's got to be the website. It's got to be that first impression that the consumer makes. And because without the good website, well, you can't really start thinking about doing, great work in Google reviews, because
Right.
what's the point if you get Google reviews and the first thing people do is go check out your website and it sucks, right?
Right.
Or what you can't really do SEO and drive people to a crappy website. So
Right.
I think website is probably the number one thing that needs to improve, that more agencies really need to be intentional about having a really good impression and a functional website that is going to provide useful information and really start that customer journey off on the right foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're right on the cusp of seeing tremendous efforts by the IE system to really evolve in a more rapid basis than we have in the past few years.
I agree.
And part of my reason for believing that is that, in my view, independent agencies have really been protected from the distribution channels that are providing that convenience and the strong mobile presence or the web presence, because independent agents still, by and large, have a superior product to offer and a better price to offer in a lot of instances, and certainly the advice that comes with dealing with the trusted choice insurance agent. I mean, that has really protected us from, I think, a lot of the direct writers in their efforts at modernization and convenience. But what is really changing right now is those independent agencies that are on the cutting edge, and they really have changed the customer experience. Well, they also have the same carriers that the rest of the independent agents have. So the disruption is going to come from within, because those really super modern agencies that have access to all the great carriers and are providing that outstanding customer experience through the appropriate use of technology and the advice of a trusted advisor, they're going to change the competitive landscape in a way that other independent agencies are going to have to respond, or they're just going to get their teeth kicked in by those independent agencies that have embraced the new and modern way of doing business.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to drive. It's going to be the competition that starts to really get enhanced from the independent agency system, that's going to require the other independent agents to either you catch up, you keep up, or you get left out. And I think that's what we're going to see here in the next couple of years. Yeah,
that's good. Olivia, he said website. Well, he said a lot more than website. But if you were to answer that question, crystal ball, 2020 and beyond, what do you think you're seeing? And also the knowledge you're bringing back from where you just were at IA BrainShare. Tell us about what you think is going to be important for agents to focus on moving forward.
Oh gosh, boy. I don't know. I'm like trying to flip through my notes here. My brain is still kind of like
mush.
Yeah. Well, this is probably now and forever, but we talked about data before, but understanding our data, behavioral data.
Yeah.
It tells the story of our customers, what they want, what they expect. It's just going to be an ongoing focus, but being able to get at it is obviously really important. I don't know. I mean,
that's good.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Fantastic. No, I think for me, I'll answer my own question. I think if you were to boil it down, and I'll be real simple too, we've talked ad nauseum, I think, about the importance of social proof, Google reviews, and Google is going to, I think someone had, I'm going to put this up here. Also, Google getting in the game should speed things up a bit. I think that's a comment about Google getting in the insurance world. But to that end, I mean,
the management system world. I mean, don't forget their partnership with Applied, right? I mean,
Applied, right?
$20 million. Or
yes.
So.
Yeah, good stuff. My thought there, though, is if you don't have a strategy, even if that is a manual strategy, on how to get Google reviews on on Google, you are leaving business out there. And we really focused on that 4 years ago. To this day, it is still a manual process for us. We do not have any kind of a automated flow of email or asks to ask for those Google reviews, but we ask just about every customer that we sell a new policy to for a review, and it has led, we're up to like 82, I think, for our agency, which in our small town goes a long way.
Social proof.
Yeah, and that's a huge deal. I mean, just before this call came on, my phone rang, and I ask every client that calls in, how did you hear about us? And he said, man, I found you on Google Maps. I'm moving to the area, and I need someone that I can trust. And your agency had the most reviews, the best reviews, and oh, by the way, you were mentioned in most of them, and I want to work with you. And so if and it's so easy, you can have some friends of you. You can call up 10 people right now that aren't associated with your agency and say, hey, man, go online, leave me a review on Google, and it will turbocharge the inflow of new opportunities that you have. If that's the game that if you're trying to get multiple opportunities into your agency, if that's how you're set up, I think that's the way that you're going to have to do that to survive in the future.
I think you're spot on, Landon.
And then call me after this, and I can tell you about the software that we're using that automates a lot of that. It's driving a lot of Google reviews to our page.
All right, I will do it. I will do it.
Deal.
Okay, I like that. I like deals. That's good. All right. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks, Aubie, for jumping in here with us. Olivia, thank
you guys for having me.
Yes, and Olivia, we will work on this audio issue here.
I think I know what it was, but I couldn't fix it. So
okay, no big deal.
Next time I'll be like in an office and not in a McDonald's parking lot.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
But I said it was very nice to see her and hear her, and I'm sorry that she couldn't hear me.
Yes. He says, very nice to see you and hear you, even though you couldn't hear him. So
I look forward to the playback.
Yes. The golden arches may interfere with audio quality. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So, all right. Well, thank you all for dropping in here. And you can continue to submit questions below. We'll watch it for a little while. But hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, guys.